We're honoring the Shomrim tonight because the Shomrim deserve to be honored. We're talking about a group of people who not only protected our neighborhood from being looted, because to the point where not a single home in our neighborhood was looted, which was a tremendous feat. There are other neighborhoods, perhaps more affluent neighborhoods than ours, that were looted. But in our neighborhood, for the first time, last Hurricane Irene, there were homes that were broken into. Now there were no homes that were broken into. But not only did they protect our neighborhood from being looted, they also hooked up generators when generators needed to be hooked up. They brought food to people when people needed food. They facilitated services for us, gathering them everywhere from Williamsburg to Pittsburgh. They coordinated things. They found missing persons, and there were missing persons that needed to be found. They helped the sick people. These are people that were there for us in a tremendous way, to the point where if they wouldn't have been here for us, they wouldn't have been there for us, we never would have gotten through this catastrophe. And we owe them gratitude for what they've done, but not only gratitude for what they've done in the past, they've proven themselves during the time that they've helped us in the storm, and therefore not only do we owe them the gratitude in the past, we owe them support for the future. And I hope that this outpouring of gratitude that we all have tonight and we've had the last few weeks for the Shomrim will translate itself into support for the future, because they're an organization that not only deserves our support, but we need them much more than they need us.
Hi, I'm New York City Public Advocate Bill de Blasio. Good evening, everyone, and I'm so happy that you are honoring one of the most wonderful organizations that I know of in this city, Shomrim of Far Rockaway, which I have seen the work of with my own eyes in the crisis after Sandy, after a storm that literally was the greatest natural disaster we've had in generations. Shomrim of Far Rockaway led the charge to come out to the defense of the community, to make sure even before government agencies were there, that there was a command center, that people were getting food, that they were getting help, no matter what difficulties any citizen was going through, Shomrim was there for them. And to me, whether it was people who lived in Far Rockaway or Baywater, they knew Shomrim would stand up for them, be there, make things happen, even under dire circumstances. I've known Shomrim organizations all over the city, but Shomrim of Far Rockaway had to respond to amongst the very hardest hit areas after Sandy, and be there with such tremendous support for people. It was a great, great example of why this organization is so important, why we have to support it. And I know that we will make sure year in and year out that Shomrim of Far Rockaway has our support and our helping hand. It's very necessary for the future. I also want to say there were some times, because of observance, that the Shomrim couldn't be there to protect the community, and I was honored to work with the NYPD, particularly Captain Maloney of the 101st Precinct, to make sure there were extra police patrols during Shabbos, during the first few weekends of the crisis. Shomrim does so much, but we also want to thank the men and women of the NYPD who filled in so nobly in those times when people felt very insecure and needed additional presence, and I was honored to play my role in helping that happen. So I wish everyone a wonderful evening, and please be as generous as you can in helping Shomrim. They do so much for us. Let's be there for them.
As founder and director, as soon as the storm hit, it was my responsibility to really make sure that we went from a startup organization, one that really didn't know how to respond on this level, to a highly professional organization that would be able to respond to any new challenges that came up that we could never have even dreamed of 2 weeks prior. One of the greatest challenges was the realization early on that it's not going to be business as usual, that when disasters like this happen on this type of scale, what we need to do is go from a patrol that had 2 patrols a night at most to a patrol that would be open 24/7. We realized that the looting and the crime would go up exponentially, and indeed it did in other parts of the precinct, So one of the biggest challenges, I would say, would really be to get the 24-hour coverage, not only in the office to do dispatch, but for people actually to come out and do the patrols at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, during the day when people had work. That was probably most challenging, but thankfully we were able to accomplish that. One of the biggest surprises that I think we had was to watch how the entire community and every member of the patrol really put in their part to make this work. You had people staying up all night. You had people doing patrols all night. That really we did not expect. We didn't expect people to come in day after day, night after night, just to do a patrol, just to protect their homes, just to protect their neighbors' homes, just to even sit in the office and answer phone calls and do dispatch. That really came as a big surprise, and it's those people that we should really be thankful for. One of the most satisfying feelings is that afterwards, hearing about the unfortunate events in the rest of the 101st Precinct, where crime went up about 7-fold compared to last year, and to know that our area was safe because people really stepped up to the plate and did the patrols when they had to. That was really the most satisfying thing for me. Probably one of the most amazing things was how the police really stepped up. The NYPD, especially the 101st Precinct, the Captain Maloney, really reached out constantly, kept on calling us, kept on dropping by, making sure everything's okay. Assigning a detail to our command center so we have a line directly into the precinct. Really, a lot of our work could not have been accomplished on the level that it was accomplished. That when we saw something going down, we were able to have police backup almost immediately. Really helped. And for that, we should really be thankful to the 101st Precinct of the NYPD. It was gratifying to know that people were able to evacuate and go to a safe place if they had small children or elderly parents or whatever reason that they had to evacuate. The idea that they didn't have to worry about their property because we were out there is really satisfying to us. When we see the various rabbinic support that we get from the various communities and the various shuls, like Rabbi Shapiro and his shul, it just emboldens our commitment to the community. It emboldens us to say we serve someone, we serve people, we are out there for them, we are out there for the community.
Thank you so much for having me here with you tonight. I want to thank Rabbi Shapiro and especially the RCSP Shomrim Patrol. Just over a year ago, I was elected to office to represent the 23rd Assembly District, never expecting to see what I've seen over the last month. Hurricane Sandy has really hit my district hard, not just in Rockaway, Baywater, and Breezy Point, but also in Broad Channel, Hamilton Beach, and Howard Beach. Almost 85% of my district was affected negatively by either storm, flood, or fire. It's been a very trying time for me and all my staff. But I will say this, throughout this storm, there are certain shining lights. There are certain silver linings. And looking at a storm like this, it's difficult to even think that way. But when I think about the tremendous work that was done by the volunteers of the RCSP Shomrim Patrol through some of our most difficult times, it really makes me smile. I was here in Baywater and throughout this community during the trying times of Hurricane Sandy, and I could say without a shadow of a doubt that there was a certain level of protection, a certain level of comfort that I had, and I know all my neighbors had, because of the great volunteers who work 24/7 keeping our streets safe and being the eyes and ears of the police department. The 101st Precinct was stretched very thin. I want to thank Captain Maloney, who has done a tremendous job, but I think even he would admit that he could not have done the great job he did without the volunteers of the RCSP. They do great work, and I'm so excited to support them, the volunteers, and especially be a part of the safety and the comfort that our families have. My job in the Assembly is to find partners on the ground who can help us do the great work of keeping our community strong. In the RCSP, I have found a great partner, and I look forward to many years of committed, dedicated service to the volunteers. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great night.
As the coordinator of the 9 to 12 shift for both Far Rockaway and Baywater, it is my job prior to each month to set up a calendar so that our neighborhood is adequately secured from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Before the storm, we were all out on patrol assessing the situation. One thing we noticed that was of primary concern to us was the fact that there was a lot of suspicious characters crawling about the neighborhood, surveying which houses are being emptied and evacuated and which houses are not. While we were doing that, we were also participating in evacuations. There was a major security situation at hand, and we had to rise to the occasion. During the storm, we noticed that tree branches were starting to fall and there were dangerous situations such as live wires, rising waters, and the like. We cornered off dangerous streets so as to keep people safe, and we coordinated with police, FDNY, in ensuring that everything runs as smoothly as possible. Once the lights turned off, we realized that the looters were out in full blast. In Baywater, we noticed that looters were walking around with shopping carts and other such devices in order to fill up and go. We were not letting that happen. Promptly, we all got together and went out, and while the police were dealing with life and death situations on the other end of the peninsula, because the other police stations were already underwater, we were holding it down here in Far Rockaway and Baywater. What we've done while doing that was we would roll up on these people and literally escort them out of town because they realized that eyes would not leave them until they were gone. Unfortunately, 2 houses in Far Rockaway got looted. And once we were aware of that situation, immediately, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, during and after the storm, shifts were set up so that no looting takes place at all. One rescue that I was involved in was I was flagged down by some people on Mott Avenue, alerting me of the fact that there were rapidly rising waters in front of buildings between Baywater and Far Rockaway. I noticed that there was a person in this vehicle. I asked several people around there if they knew how to swim. They did not. I proceeded to walk into this rapidly rising puddle that was coming from the sewer system. There I noticed that there was an individual in a car who at this point did not realize just how deep the waters he was in. He was actually trying to start his car, to no avail. I informed him that the waters were rapidly rising and he was in a very dangerous situation. He immediately gathered all of his possessions that he needed from that car, and I encouraged him, my man, you got to hurry up. By the time he got his stuff together, the water was already up to his front window, and we couldn't get the door open. He was trapped inside. I informed him that since electricity still managed somehow to be working in his vehicle, that he needs to roll down his window, which he did. The water rushed into his car, and then physics enabled us to open the door. It was at that point that I escorted him out and then swam with him to safety.
The night of the storm, we were out routine patrol. We received information that police officers are yelling for help. They're drowning in the water at Beach Channel Drive and Beach 85th Street. When we got to the scene, we saw police officers in the water with about 5 feet of water. Once they came out of the water, we helped one police officer put into an ambulance. Then I went over to the CO of the precinct and I advised him that I have over here 3 vehicles that I can help him transfer his cops to a safe area into his precinct. The CO gave us the okay to transfer his officers. We buckled them up in a few different vehicles and we took him into the precinct. The CO was very, very thankful for us for helping him out in a situation like that. Right after the storm, we received a phone call from Bell Harbor that there's 3 shuls with Saifatoiras submerged in the water in those shuls. So we all responded in from Far Rockaway into Bell Harbor. I called in to the Shomrim of Brooklyn to assist us, as well Chesed Shalemes and the fire department of Monroe. They were all activated and backing us up in that job. We went in and we started pumping those water out of the shuls. The shuls were about 5 feet of water. And as soon as the water went down like to 3 feet, we went in. The Orna Kodesh was submerged in the water. We had to pry it open with heavy-duty tools. Once we're in there, we took those Saifatoiras out from the water, which those Saifatoiras was assessed by the Yonam is going to have to be buried. And with the assist from all these agencies that went to back us up, we got all these Saifatoiras out, and we got out Saifatoiras that wasn't destroyed safely to a safe area. So we have the cover of the Saifatoiras.
So now that the hurricane's over, the question really is, where do we go from here? We existed before the storm, and we're going to exist after the storm. Hopefully now we could concentrate with the support from shuls like Rabbi Shapiro's. We can now move forward. We could get the equipment that we need. We could help with burglaries. We could respond to domestic violence cases. We could respond to all sorts of things, missing persons. And the more that we're able to plan and train for that, the safer this community will be.